So we send a photo of the brand that we want to promote along with our reference character. That triggers the automation to get to work. And when it's done, we get our UGC video back to watch.
Guys, look at this. Cinnabon is now open at Westfield, Sydney, and on August 21st, they're doing 50% off on their cinnamon rolls, which is wild. These cinnamon rolls are honestly unreal. They're so soft and gooey. I think I'm obsessed now.
So check this out. It's the Lego One Piece set. If you love One Piece, the whole set totally brings the vibe.
The vanilla tastes creamy, but not too sweet. You wouldn't guess there's no dairy in here.
It's literally like wearing a soft cloud. Look at these little faces, they're adorable.
Hey guys, the Pop Mart store is finally open at Shibuya Parco Mall. It's so cute here and they have all the collectible toys.
I just got this Monopoly Gold Mega Edition. Like, the box is all black and gold and it looks super fancy.
Okay, so I'm in my car with The Hobbit. This cover is just so pretty. It's got this cool fantasy look.
Hey, so this is the Rock Bar. When I'm out camping and wanted something with actual protein. This packs 20 grams per bar. These are super easy to just throw in your pack.
Today, I'll teach you this AI system that creates endless user-generated content or UGC videos for us using any character and at any length. Because in case you don't know, today's brands are already using AI-generated characters to launch ads by the hundreds. And it makes sense because Bigfoot has 1.2 million followers on social. And these brands are smartly using his fame to endorse their products. So if you have this AI system set up, you can just send your brand and the character you want to it, tell it the length of the video that you prefer, and you will get a UGC ad generated on autopilot. And once you learn this skill, you can use it for your own brand, offer it as a service for clients, and even earn passive affiliate income by driving traffic to Amazon products, for example. And remember, the videos we're showing here now is the worst that it will ever be. As months pass, quality will only go up while costs will continue to drop. AI is moving fast and demand for automation is climbing, which you can clearly see if you just check Google Trends. And so picking up the skill on how to build these AI systems, which are all no code anyway, so anyone can learn them, will definitely put you ahead with the payoff being quite significant. So if you have the time, listen to the end and take in the knowledge, because the sooner that you master this skill, the sooner that you'll benefit from the shift that's already happening. Let's get started. If you're new here, my name is Jay. I run my own AI creative agency where we help brands and content businesses use AI in smart and useful ways. And I also run the RoboNuggets community. We have several hundred members now who are all AI practitioners and builders located across the globe. And here our mission is simple, is to make creating with AI easy to learn and earn from, no matter what your background is. So today I will teach you how to set up this AI system and automation that can give you infinite UGC videos depending on your reference image, on any length and any character that you wish. So how it works is I have it set up on my Telegram, and what I'll do is I'll just send a photo of that Cinnabon store, which I took a photo of earlier. And once I send that, that should trigger the workflow, and it will handle all the technical heavy lifting for you, including the prompt engineering that passes it along to our image and video models that we're calling on here, and will also dynamically adjust how many clips it will generate based on the desired length that you want. So for this instance, you can see we didn't provide a reference character, so we'll do that later when we run through the whole workflow together. But for this one, I just showed that you can actually just let the AI system create your character for you if you wish. All right, so once that's done, we can preview that as well.
Okay, Cinnabon just opened at Westfield, Sydney, and the smell. You can't walk past without craving one. Look at these cinnamon rolls. Seriously, they're so gooey and warm. Honestly, nothing beats grabbing one after shopping. If you see me here every week, mind your business.
All right, that looks very good, actually. And if you remember, we requested it to be at least 15 seconds. And so what it did is generate 2 clips with Veo3 so that it has a total runtime of 16 seconds and then stitch them together automatically as well. So that's how it works once you have it set up on your side. Now what we'll do is go through each of these notes so that you can also understand the principles of how to set it up yourself. And in case you're part of the RoboNuggets community, what you can do is just download this resource, which is basically a template, which you can just import into n8n, the no-code tool that we'll be using. And that would create the automation for you automatically. So that's a nice little shortcut if in case you want that. And if you look at this workflow, it's all neatly organized as well. And with a lot of the creative workflows and automations that we feature on this channel, usually the setup is that you have an input section where you arrange everything that the AI agents need in order to get you the best possible output that you want. And then you have an output section here, which is where you want those videos to be sent. So right now we just have it sent as Telegram, but obviously if you want that connected to Google Drive or Dropbox or what have you, we have a couple of tutorials and lessons in our classroom around that as well. And then the magic happens within these 3 steps. So essentially how the workflow happens is that we are first generating an image, which we then pass along to Veo3 so that we do an image to video for multiple clips, and then pass that along to step 3 to combine those those videos together so that we have that longer clip. Now, a lot of the, let's say, configuration and magic that happens here is within these AI agents because they actually understand the request that you're making. So let's say if you want like a 20-second video, they'll be able to adjust the output, or if you want to use Veo3 quality instead of Veo3 fast, those are all possible as well. And you just need to speak into Telegram, which is our messaging service we're using in this case. And these agents will be able to adjust the request for you as well. So let's go into this starting with the input section. And let's just start this by looking into this Telegram trigger node. If I can just zoom in, and you can see here that I just have it connected to my AdRobo bot. If you need a tutorial on how to set this up, we have a lot of resources in our community if you're part of that. And I also went through this in some of our videos here on YouTube. And what I'll just do here is click on execute step so that it will start to listen to what I'll send. Now for this case, let's do one where we are sending a character along with the product that we want to promote. And for you to do that, you can actually just send one photo with the product and the character in that same image into your Telegram bot. So you can do this multiple ways, like Canva, for example. I just like to use PowerPoint because you can just place them here. And you can see I was trying out a lot of different permutations there. But I think for this one, let's try the Hobbit book and try to put in Gandalf in there. So what you can do is just take a screenshot of this and then paste it here. And let's say create a UGC with this wizard promoting this book. He's in his car. Let's do 20 seconds. Cool. All right. So that has been sent. And you can see what happened in our Telegram trigger is that it just got the information from that message that we sent, including that message as well as the photos. So now how do we prepare those elements so that our AI agent can work with them? Well, the very first thing that you need to set is this bot ID. And all this really does is preset your bot ID that is specific to this chat agent that you have set up on Telegram. So you can see this one has a pretty long string. This is unique to my messaging agent here. And when you create your Telegram agent for the first time, Telegram will actually give you this ID, which you can just paste in here. And so let's just execute this step so that we can load that ID into this specific run. And you'll see later how that is going to help us a lot in our quality of life. In fact, here you can already see it being used because this next node, which is basically an HTTP request node, all it really does is to get the image path coming from this message that we did. And this is just a standard way for us to get images from Telegram. And what we have here is a request where the method is get, because we'll be getting some information from where? From this URL. So if you expand that, you'll see that we just have Telegram's standard syntax here and some dynamic values denoted by this green text where we are getting the bot ID, which I have here. So the Telegram knows which agent we are getting information from. And then you have here some syntax around which file you're getting. So again, this is a dynamic value where we are specifically getting this file ID that came from our Telegram trigger. So just to show where that is, how Telegram does it is it actually stores different resolutions. So photo 0 is the lowest resolution, while photo 3 is the highest resolution. I chose photo 2 because that is sizable enough. But just a note that if you send a really small photo, you might have to change this photo 2 into photo 1. But anyway, photo 2 should be good for our use case. And you can see that this long string, we're just getting that from this long string. So it's the same thing. And when we execute this step, what n8n is actually doing is requesting Telegram to find, okay, from within this specific bot, can you get me some of the information for this specific file? And when we did that execute step, that's actually what it did. And all we really need here is this file path. So we were able to find out the file name automatically from that Telegram server, which is good because if you go to the next step, what we'll be doing next is to describe that image. And the reason why we need that is, as of this moment, these AI agents that n8n has actually don't have built-in capabilities to be fed an image yet. And so this node compensates for that, where we have our credential connected with OpenAI, which again, we have a couple of tutorials over at the community on how to set this up. We just have the operation set as analyze image, chosen the latest available model there. And then what we are requesting is to just analyze the given image. Now, this is quite long, because I actually wanted it to account for different images. So whether you're sending just a product or just a character or both, then it has specific instructions here. So if it is a product, the instructions are quite simple. Just give it the brand name, just give it the color scheme, the visual description of what that product is. And if it's a character, then we provide the name of the character, what the color scheme of their outfit is, and things like that. And you can change this depending on your use case. And then we just have a final note here that if it is both, which is what you will see when we execute this step, it will return both the descriptions of the product and the character. So it has its instructions. Now, what is the actual image that it will analyze? So this is where we'll be using that file path. So if we open that, you can see we are pointing to our bot again, so that Telegram knows which bot we are getting this photo from, and we are passing along that file name that we got earlier, which if you actually copy this and paste it to your browser, that should ideally download that photo for you, which means that n8n can access it too. So if we execute this step, our OpenAI model has now done some work to output for us this content piece, which if we just go to table, so we can view that a bit easier. Kind of hard to read, but you can glean that this is describing the Hobbit book. And if you scroll down here, you can see that it was able to describe who the character is also. So that's very good that we now have that data loaded into n8n. And so this next step is just more for UX purposes, where this specific node's job is to just send a message back in our chatbot, where we are sending a message saying, got it, I'm now creating your video. And then this chat ID is just a field that n8n has here, which we got coming from the very first Telegram trigger node. Let's find it. Yeah, it's this one. So we just drag that into that, because obviously n8n needs to know which particular chat window this node needs to send that message to. So if we execute that step, I just got a notification on my Telegram where it says that it is now creating our video. So if you're on the go, at least you know that it actually worked. So there you go, the input section now done. So what's going to happen next is coming from those elements, what we'll be actually doing is to create the image first. And the next node here is this AI agent for the image, which if we open that, with any AI agent, there's always a user prompt, which is sort of like what you send to your ChatGPTs of the world. And then you have a system guideline. So it just dictates how this agent will act, what its output will be, and so on. So if we open this user prompt first, you'll see that we have some instructions here around the task at hand to create one image prompt. And then we just have this guideline around depicting the reference image as accurately as possible. And then a couple of dynamic values. So we provided here the user's instructions, which is literally what we sent to Telegram earlier. And then we have this description of the reference image, which is coming from our analyze image node, right? So you can see here that this is exactly what our analyze image node provided as an output for us. You have Gandalf there as well as the Hobbit book. And then we just have some guidance around what the aspect ratio is, which is just inferred based on the message above. And then we're asking it to think about its output, which we talked about a lot in our platform. But obviously, if you just have that user prompt and paste it to like a general model like ChatGPT, it's probably not going to give you the output that you want. And so we have a pretty robust system prompt here, which I'll just highlight some of the most important points. And because this is going to be a UGC prompt creator, you can see that a lot of this guidance just talks about the fact that we want amateur quality iPhone photo styles, slightly imperfect framing and lighting. So if you have a completely different use case, then you probably need to amend the system prompt. But what the system guideline optimizes for is the realism of the image at hand. A couple of camera parameters here, which is good practice, especially if you're trying to generate real life scenes. And then if you can see here, we actually are using the agent framework, which we talked about in this video right here previously. But what all that really does is provide your agent with your ask, some guidance on how to achieve that ask, some examples of what a good output looks like, the notation, which is the structure of the output that you want, which is important for automations like these, and the tools that it has access to. So just to go back, I think the important pieces here is these two is basically what we want. We want the image prompt, obviously, and we're just asking this agent to provide us with an output in YAML format, which is a markup language, just to make sure that it is organized, which you'll see in a bit. And then for the aspect ratio, the only two allowed ones by the model we'll use is 3:2 or 2:3. So we make sure that that is guided. And then we just have a couple of guidance here, like ensuring diversity. If you have a specific request to do multiple actors, a default for the age range, which again, you can change depending on your use case. We have a general good example here so that the model knows what we're after, and then just a repeat of a lot of things just to reinforce that that is what we really need. So if we execute this step, what you'll actually see is not only will that run, but what also runs are these subnodes that it has at the bottom, which it is connected to. And what happens here is this GPT model is acting as sort of its brain. So if you just open that, you can see we just have it connected to our OpenAI account as well, using the model of our choice, 4.1 in this case. And then this think model is just a node that I added. I didn't really change this default description by n8n, but that just allows your AI agent to think about its output to double check it. And this structured output is how we are able to control the output that this agent delivers consistently. So you can see it is in a JavaScript object notation format or JSON, where you have the image prompt as the first thing that you want. And the second thing that you want is the aspect ratio. So this is just sort of a template that your agent can follow. And then I just toggled on this auto fix format, which is relatively new. And what that just does, if you look at its description, is it will automatically fix the output if in case it's not in the correct format. Because when I was trying this out, I guess because of the complexity of what we're asking the agents to do, sometimes it doesn't get it right the first time. And so when we do that, that will actually let you connect a model into the structured output, which we just attach to this GPT node so that it can also use that same model for correcting its output. Makes setup simpler. But okay, so that runs successfully. And if we open this agent, we now have this prompt, which you can read in your own time, as well as the aspect ratio image, which is also what we need. So before we go forward, I'll just pin all of these nodes so that we don't lose that prompt. Because now what happens after is we are passing along that prompt into our image model, which we are doing via this HTTP request, which is very common in n8n in a lot of workflows like this, because this is the main way by which we are using third-party tools or models in n8n. And basically the method here is post, because we're posting a request. And whenever you're posting a mail, for example, you would need an address to send that to. And so here under URL, you can see that we are sending this under the 4.0 image model, which right now is the best that you can use at this moment. And it is hosted by this service called Key.ai. We featured them a lot in this channel because of their very cheap Veo3 integration. But you can see all they really are is an AI model aggregator, kind of like an app store that lets you access these AI models for automations. But that's good. Now, if you scroll down here, you can see that the message that we are actually sending is this payload, is what they call them, where you are passing along the URL of the image that we sent to Telegram. So you can see here in the result, that's just the same image as before, which is this one, if you remember. And we are passing along the prompt that our agent just generated for us, as well as the size or aspect ratio. So when I execute this step, what will happen is it will result to me with a 200 or a success, which means that the task has been successfully submitted. Now, under the hood, KAI has used the 4.0 image model to generate that image for us. And so we just need to wait a bit. That's why there's a wait node here in order to proceed to the next step. So we just had that set to 60 seconds. And when that is done, what our next node will do is another HTTP request, but this time we're getting it. And we're getting it from this URL, which we just got from KAI's documentation. And all the setup really needed here is to provide it the task ID. So you can see there's another dynamic value here where we are getting this task ID coming from that create image request we just submitted. This is just a way for us to find the specific task in KAI, because obviously a lot of people are using KAI, right? So you need this specific one for your request. But I think if I execute this step, if it says 200, you can see that the status is still generating. And if you go to KAI, you can see under 4.0 image that it is still running indeed. So we'll just wait for that a bit. But to account for that, we actually have this if node that comes right after, where if we open that, all that really does is to check if the success flag, which is this attribute, is equal to 1. So if it says 1, that means that the task has finished. But right now, since it says 0, if I click execute step here, you can see that it maps to the false branch. And how that looks like in practice, if I just look at this, is that the step proceeded to this false branch here and goes back to the wait node so that we can wait a bit more for that image to generate. So that is how it works. But now that we've waited a bit, you can see that task is now successful. So what we can just do is go back to this get image node and re-execute the step. And ideally, there you go, the success flag is 1, and we can actually preview this resulting image. So if I copy that into our browser, there you go. So you have Gandalf holding the Hobbit book, ready to talk about it in our video generation step. So that's good. That is pretty much what we need there. So what you want to do is to just make sure to pin these nodes so that we don't lose those images, at least for this guided run, obviously. And if we execute this if node by clicking that play button, this time you can see it mapped to true and moving on to our video AI agent. So our video AI agent pretty much looks similar to the previous agent, but this time, if I open this user prompt, its task is to create the video prompt this time. It has a lot of the same guidance as before, and then just some guidance around the dialogue, because since this agent can be asked to generate multiple scenes, we just guided it so that the dialogue runs continuously and makes sense. And then I just added this prompt because when I was testing this, the character tend to talk about the packaging of the product, which is not really the benefit of what they're promoting. So I just gave it examples of what really to talk about. And then I also found that they tended to mention the brand name multiple times for every scene. So I just added that guidance there so that it only appears in the first scene. Obviously, you can change that. And then another guidance around not interacting with the product, because as of right now, when you try to do this, a lot of the reality breaks and a lot of the models can't do it yet as of the moment. Maybe with Veo4, that would be much more seamless. And then just as a default, if the desired total time of the video is not provided, it will just default to generate 3 scenes. And then if you zoom out, we just pass it the user's instructions from the very first instance, which we have here. This is our very first chat to it. We have instructions on the count of videos to create. So remember, since Veo3 is only 8 seconds long, it will just calculate how many videos is needed based on the user's desired total duration. So it's simple math that our agent can pretty much do. And then here, we just provided, again, the description of the reference image so that it has more info to work with. And then we have here guidance around the preferred aspect ratio, the preferred model, and preferred dialogue script, which are all inferred, coming from your Telegram message. So that is good. And now the system prompt is, again, similar to before. So you can see we have another highlight around making it more realistic, amateur quality, and so on. We have guidance on what the dialogue is so that it is matching the UGC style output that we want for this case. And you can read this in your own time, but you can see it's pretty much the same as the image prompt that we had earlier, except that this time the output that we want is a video prompt, obviously. We have the aspect ratio for the video and the model, which is defaulting to Veo3 Fast, which is Google's cheaper model. So with this integration with Key AI, it's only 40 cents per video, which is the cheapest that we found right now for this automation. But you can also choose Veo3 quality, also known as Veo3, which is $2 per video. But from our testing, Veo3 quality isn't really 5 times the quality. And so for most use cases, I think Veo3 Fast is good enough. But cool. So once we execute this step, you'll see a lot of the operations running same as before, where it's using its brain, which is GPT-1 in this case, the same thing. And then by the end, it will look at this structured output node just to make sure that what it is providing us is what we need. So if you open this, you can see that it is same as what we had in that notation section in the system prompt, just to reinforce. And if we open this one again and go to schema, you can see that it generated 3 scenes for us. And for each of those scenes, you have the video prompt where it suggested the dialogue, which, by the way, if you want your actor to say something specific, you just make sure to include that in your Telegram message and you can be as detailed as you want. But for this one, we just let it think about the dialogue as well. Then we have a couple of guidance here as well, plus the aspect ratio, which is 9:16, and the model, which is Veo3_Fast, which is the format we need to move on to the next step. Which before we pass that along to Veo3, we just have this split out node. And the reason why, if I just execute this step, what it's basically going to do is to take this scenes field in n8n, which is this one, which if you remember is those 3, and then break it down from 1 item here in the input into 3 items. And the reason why we need that is in n8n, in order for you to generate them one by one, you actually need to pass them along one by one as well into the next HTTP request. And so having them as 3 items will let you achieve that. So you can see it mapped to our create video here, which again is a post request, but this time using Veo as the model, but still using Key AI as a service. You have your credentials set up here, which we featured a lot in our community and in this channel. But more importantly, we have here the body, which is the specific request that we are sending out. And this is just as per Key AI's documentations that they need you to send the prompt, which we sent here, the model, which we have as Veo3 Fast, the aspect ratio, which is 9:16, and the image URL, which is this one. Now, this one, if you remember, this is the image that OpenAI's ChatGPT model already generated for us, which will be the starting frame for our video generation. Now you can see we just have a couple of special characters here, and all we're really doing here is just fixing some of the common problems that arise when you use n8n or automation tools for passing along a prompt in this JSON format. So what we're doing is account for the double quotes and the line breaks, which are denoted by these characters, and then escape them, which is pretty much just doing like a backslash. So that's just standard practice when it comes to passing along these prompts so that they don't break. And then you also have an option for batching here. So what this basically will do, if I execute this step, is it will pass along item number 1, and then after 3 seconds or 3000 milliseconds, pass along item number 2, and then after 3000 milliseconds, pass along item number 3. So we are passing 1 item per batch, with each batch separated by around 3 seconds or 3000 milliseconds. And here under schema now, when that is fully done, what we did is have 3 items. If I go to the table view, where they're all a success, which means that they were passed along successfully into Key AI, where Key AI has now activated their Veo3 Fast model to generate those videos for us. And so with that done, we literally just need to wait for those to finish. And for this one, we've set it at 600 seconds so that there's enough time for it to finish. So we'll just execute that step. and wait for it to get done. Now you can see the difference here for this pillar is that there is no if node. And the reason why that is because if you actually set an if node here, there are some instances where, let's say you have 3 videos, one of those videos is already complete and then gets moved to the next step, while 2 videos are still waiting and still generating and will actually loop back the same way we did here. Now that is actually going to be a problem because when we get to this step, it will only combine the videos that were passed along to it as a group. And so if you just have, let's say, 1 video passed to this, and it doesn't come with the other 2 videos, then that actually won't work. So for this specific workflow, your best workaround here is just set this wait node into a reasonably long time where you'll be confident that these video generations will finish, which is 10 minutes for our case. In the meantime, let's just pin these nodes so that we don't lose them. And same as before, you can just go to your logs section, and under Veo3, you'll be able to see that those generation tasks are currently running. And this is also where you see the cost. So each video is 80 credits. So that translates to 40 cents basically in KAI. So now that some time has passed, you can see that these now have success statuses. If we go back and open our get video step, if we execute this, that should now give us the 3 items and the 3 videos that we generated. And by the way, this node, it is pretty similar to the get image node we are getting from KAI, and we are just again sending the task ID, which is the specific tasks that we have. And if you open this, you can actually shuffle through this to find the 3 task IDs that we just tried to generate there. But that's good. So if we go to schema and scroll down, you'll see that under some of the response here, there is now this result URL, which is one of the videos that we generated. So let's just preview that. So by pasting it into your browser tab, and this is it.
So here's the Hobbit. I just picked it up again, and honestly, it never gets old for me.
That's looking really good. And you have 2 more videos that was generated with that, which we will see together later. Because the next and final step here is to just combine those 3 clips into one automatically. So how do you do that? The next node here is just going to be an aggregate, and this is the reverse, the exact reverse of split out. All we are really doing is looking at this specific field, which was the result URL that we were just viewing earlier, which if we just scroll down and zoom in, it's this one, which contains our video file. And if we execute that step, it will just fetch those 3 URLs and give it to us in one item, which is what we need to pass it along. So this is what I was saying earlier. If in case there's an if node and only this video was finished, what will actually appear here is just this video and not the other 2. This 2 will be sent separately, which is not what we need for this case, because we need these 3 videos to go together. So with that aggregated, what we're doing here as a final step is another HTTP request node. And this one is a bit different because what we'll be calling on as a model or service, what it's called is FFmpeg. And we use FFmpeg a lot in our agency because it stands for Fast Forward MPEG, been here since like year 2000, so almost 25 years already. And it's a primary way by which you can do automatic video editing. And it's also really cheap because it is open source. And so here you can see that what we are using is this FFmpeg API function called merge videos, which will just stitch or merge those videos together via this service called file.ai, which if you go to file.ai's explore page, you'll see a lot of different models here. They're one of the leading AI model aggregators or app stores, I would say. Like you can see they have like 300 models here. But if we just search for FFmpeg, you'll find this merge video service, which is pretty new. And if you click on that, you'll see that all it really does is merge 2 or more videos. So very simple. And the way you use it, as per their documentation, is via this URL, is the address you should send your request to. And under the body, you just have one parameter here called video URLs. And here we are basically just passing those result URLs from previously. And how it translates in real life, it just lists your different videos down in sequence. So you can see there are 3 videos here. So now if we execute that step, that will say that your request is in queue, which means that File AI has activated their FFmpeg service. And so we just need to wait for that a bit. And this is actually pretty fast. So 60 seconds is already enough here. But you can see for this one, we have an if node because it is only one request anyway. And so that's just a fail-safe for us to loop back into the wait node, similar to what we did for the image model. And if in case you're checking this and setting it up, you can actually go to the requests tab here and just check the status of your request, which is already successful. So it only took like 12 seconds, and that will actually cost less than 1 cent at that state. You're practically just paying for Follow AI's electricity to run that 11-second job for you. But with that done, you can get your final video through here. If we execute that step, you'll see that we just have this URL. So this is as per Follow AI's documentation. We are just getting the address to request for your video is going to be this response URL. So that's what we're passing here. We have our File AI credential setup here, and that's all you really need because this already includes your request ID, which points to the specific video that you requested, which is this one. And if we just close off on this workflow, there is just an if node here, which if you open that, it just checks if that video URL is already available. And for this case, that's true. So it maps to the true branch where we have just this send video node as a final step to send that video back to us. So you can see here we have a lot of the same setup as before where you have the chat ID to send this message to. And since this operation is specifically to send a video, n8n will just ask for your video URL here, which we just map coming from this specific attribute, which we dragged here. So if I execute that step, when that is successful, I just got a notif on my Telegram.
So here's the Hobbit. I just picked it up again, and honestly, it never gets old for me. The adventure in these pages is just magic. And every time I reread it, I spot something I missed before. If you just want to get lost in a different world for a bit, this is the way. It always feels like coming home.
So that was really good. So if I were to prompt that again, I probably should have expanded this prompt that I gave earlier and just give some guidance on what the voice sounds like and the accent. Because on the third clip there, you may have noticed that he suddenly switched to a different accent. But it's still pretty good, right? And the dialogue that our agents created is actually also pretty well written. So if you have a book to promote or a board game to promote with a character in it, maybe you can have your characters start to promote your books for you. Now, a few final thoughts. Once you have this workflow set up on your side, the best way to use it is to have as detailed a prompt as possible in your Telegram agent. And we didn't show it here anymore, but you can also actually use Veo3 quality or do a horizontal video if you prefer, which if you want to see that in action, you can just look at this previous video right before this one, where we also talked about some tips around client acquisition, which you can find near the end of that one. And then finally, even if this is already looking really good, there's obviously still some limitations. One is that right now we are actually not extending the scenes, like we are just clipping them together coming from one image. So there are ways to extend the scene so that this last frame under the 8-second mark will actually be the first frame of the succeeding video. So that is a bit of a longer workflow and actually has more use cases apart from just UGC. So I'll do that in an upcoming video. So stay tuned and subscribe if you haven't yet. And then finally with Veo3, if you try to put in a lot of copyrighted characters, it will most likely reject that. So that is just a way for these models to allow us to prompt responsibly. Which also, by the way, if you can always tag these videos, if you start to post them, it's just good practice. And also, most likely, a lot of the social media platforms will encourage that more and more. And anyway, people can still pretty much tell that this is AI regardless. So there's no harm in tagging it as such. And finally, for the cost, it is pretty much the same as what we featured previously. So for each video, which is 8 seconds, it's 43 cents. Hopefully, as time goes on, this will go down while the quality of the models are going up. Just a few weeks ago, to use Veo3, it was something around $5 to $8 per video. So this is very economical at this stage. And also, if you compare it to producing your own UGC videos, it's actually pretty cheap. And then obviously you have your fixed cost with n8n, which is not really incremental if you're already using n8n anyway. But that's it. Hope you learned something new from this video. Consider subscribing so we can put out more educational content on our platform like this. And if you want to learn how to make AI systems like this one and more, as well as the template and setup guide for this, consider checking out the RoboNuggets community just in the link below. A lot of our members join because of the wealth of lessons that we have here, but a lot of people stay because of the great community that we were actually able to build. So if I just go to the wins page and just scroll down, you can see a couple of great results that a lot of our members are doing. And if I go to paid opportunities, there's also a lot of opportunity there to collaborate and even find your business partner if you want. And then we also have a lot of events. So you'll see we have this Ask and Advice session running now, and where we occasionally also do masterclasses with industry leaders like this one by Sabrina just last week. And we have a couple more events coming up this September. So even at this point, I think AI is still just at the cusp of what it's capable of. So if you want to master this skill before anyone else, then have a look at the RoboNuggets community, and I'll see you inside if so. But that's it for this one. Thank you for watching. See ya.